Hey, nice to meet ya. I'm Hosoda Tomoharu. You said you're Kurata-san, right? Ah, to tell you the truth, you're unlucky as well. To come to this school. This place is a treasure trove of ghosts. I had heard there was a place where ghosts gathered, but I had no idea it was here. This school is massive, with 500 students per grade, so it's not that strange that an accident might happen every now and then. But those accidents aren't normal. They're very clearly not normal. Everyone says it's just a figment of their imagination, but those with strong supernatural abilities know that it's anything but. To be honest, I wasn't sure whether I should come to this school. Because I sensed it when I was taking the entrance exams. The strong supernatural energy here. I also possess an average ability to sense the supernatural. But it's just average. And even I felt a strong presence here. Strong enough to cause goosebumps all over my body. To be honest, I don't think I did very well on the test. I think everyone else scored much higher than me. But still, I got in. I was surprised when I saw that I passed. At that time, I thought something. Maybe this school was calling me. It was fate, and so I gave up. I didn't get into any other schools either. Honestly, if I hadn't come to this school, I would have become a high school Ronin. I didn't want that, nor would my family have let me. This was probably all decided long ago. Then, when I actually started school here, well, it wasn't that bad. Maybe you could say I got used to it, I guess. But at the time of the entrance exam, it really was terrifying. I could see the spiritual energy hanging around. This school was the first time I'd ever felt anything like that. I could barely focus on the test. I couldn't believe that the others around me were acting normal. But there was someone else, just like me, who went pale. What was his name again? I think it was Nakano. He seemed timid and weak. But, just like me, he was choked by spiritual energy and felt ill. He probably thought the same thing about me. We locked eyes during the break. He lowered his head and waved at me. I panicked and waved back. Then he stood up from his seat and approached me. "Hello, nice to meet you." I replied in kind. Seeing him up close, he seemed like a friendly guy. I couldn't see anyone there that I was friends with. Several of my friends were supposed to take the test as well, but it really was a big place. I felt kinda lonely being there by myself. He probably felt the same way. We got on well, and quickly became friends. How did the test go? No good. I couldn't do it at all. Me too. As we chatted about inconsequential things, the break soon ended. Both he and I had noticed the spiritual energy engulfing the entire school, but neither of us brought it up. When the test in the second period finished, Nakano came over to see me again. "Wanna go to the toilet?" "Ah, I was also thinking of going myself." To be honest, I'd been holding it in since earlier. All that time, I was more concerned about the test finishing quickly than solving the problems on it. I think he felt the same way. The breaks passed in a flash. Perhaps because it was so crowded, if you didn't hurry, the time would vanish, just like that. We rushed over to the toilets. Ah. We both screamed and stopped at the same time. Then we turned to look at each other. Can you see it too? I nodded silently in response. I'd seen something unbelievable. What do you think I saw? Numerous hands reached out from the toilets. Dozens of them beckoning from the stalls. So many hands jostled that you couldn't see into the toilets. It looked just like people packed into a train, jostling each other through small doors trying to get out. But the difference was that these weren't people, but instead countless hands. They looked like they were trying to escape from something. They weren't human. They were undoubtedly spirits. The front of the toilets were packed with people waiting their turn, but I couldn't believe it. That they could so easily go in there. What do you want to do? I was surprised. Nakano looked at me forlorn, even though he should have been able to see them as well. Or maybe he was seeing something different to me. What do I want to do? Even having said that, it didn't seem like I'd be able to keep holding it in. I was gonna wet myself. Come on, so many people were going in there. I had to be seeing things. That was what I told myself. But the fear didn't disappear. What do you want to do? Nakano asked me again. What should I do? Hold it in. Let's not go here. You can see the hands too, right? Yeah. He gave a small nod. So he could see them then. We persevered and returned to the testing area. For the third period, I was in no state to take a test. I broke out in a clammy sweat, and all I could think about was the test finishing quickly. Enough that I thought about abandoning it halfway through. I didn't care about the test anymore. I clenched my teeth and kept my head down. It felt like I was going to pass out. Then, behind me, I heard a loud bang. With my head down, I turned my eyes to look, and Nakano had a shaky hand up in the air. Sir, I need to go to the toilet. His face was taut with tension, and his voice trembled. They didn't allow you to go to the toilet during tests at this school. If you went to the toilet, they took that to mean you had finished the test, and you'd have to wait outside until the start of the next one. It was the same when you took the tests, right? As a method to stop cheating, it's pretty strict. I saw a little of his answer sheet, but he'd hardly written anything. He looked like he was about to cry. He must have really been holding it in. Well, I felt much the same way too. I very much thought about standing up myself, but I'd barely finished any of the test, and if I handed in a blank page, of course I'd get 0 points. On the contrary, Nakano going to the toilet spurred me on to try harder. It didn't matter whether it was wrong, I just had to get something down on the page, and I wrote desperately. Strangely, focusing on the test helped me to hold it in. It was a brand new discovery. The bell rang at the same time I finished filling in the last answer. I quickly stood up. I mixed in with the others running to the toilets. Go to the toilet from before. I must have been in quite the rush because I didn't even think about going to a different toilet. Plus, that toilet was the closest anyway. And there were so many people that even if hands were sticking out of the toilets, I thought I'd be fine. I hurried towards them, telling myself that over and over. There were no hands. Strangely, all of the spiritual energy in the toilets had completely disappeared. It was like nothing had ever happened. I flew into the first toilet and did my business. Relieved, suddenly I thought something. What had happened to Nakano? He wasn't allowed back into the testing area until the test finished, so he had to be waiting somewhere else. He wasn't near the toilets. Well, he wouldn't hang around such a creepy place like this forever anyway. It was lunchtime after third period, so I searched all over for him, but I couldn't find him anywhere. There were so many people around though, that it wouldn't have been strange if I had looked right past him. He was probably looking for me as well. We might have walked right past each other. Reluctantly, I returned to the testing area and searched there for him as well. But I couldn't find him. Then the fourth period started, with no sign of him. He didn't come back. The test went on without him. Once the test started, you couldn't enter the room. Did he go somewhere? Or was he abandoning the tests? My heart pounded strangely. Maybe something happened to him. When the fourth period finished, I went to check the toilets again. And then, what do you know? The hands were reaching out from the toilets again. They wavered like blowing in the wind, like they were inviting me in. Come to think of it, I hadn't checked the toilets carefully. Maybe Nakano was still inside one. I couldn't help but think so. Should I check? What should I do? Go in. I summoned the courage and went inside. The hands started moving violently as I did, trying to grab me. And yet everyone else passed right through them on their way into the toilets, as though they weren't there. I clenched my eyes shut and stepped forward. At that moment, suddenly I tasted something bitter. Gastric juices spread throughout my mouth. It was like something was wringing my stomach, like it was groping around in there. It had to be those hands. Those hands were squeezing and running over my stomach. But I couldn't open my eyes. I was too scared. The approaching hands in front of me seemed like they might crush my skull, so I couldn't open my eyes. But still, I tried to press forward. But just trying to move forward 1 millimeter made me intensely want to throw up. The contents of my stomach nearly emptied. I couldn't keep going. I covered my mouth and leaned forward. But the countless hands that filled the toilet wouldn't let me fall over. The hands sent me flying and I fell over backwards. But luckily, that may have saved me. I nervously opened my eyes and the hands were gone. I still get chills when I think about what might have happened if those hands pulled me in. Everyone looked at me strangely as I rolled out of the toilets, dazed, and walked on by. They looked at me coldly, like they didn't want to get involved. I was in no position to search the toilets any further. I staggered back to the testing area, and when the final test in the 5th period was done, I hurried back home. I haven't seen Nakano since then. I don't know if he even passed the test to get into this school. But I do know that he isn't here now. These days, I've been thinking. He must have gone straight home that day. His answer sheet was basically blank, and even if he passed the next test, he must have known it wouldn't have been enough. So, he gave up. There's a good chance that was what happened, and that seems fair, I think. But after I started coming here, I heard rumors about that toilet. Apparently, a hand comes out of that toilet. And if that hand takes an interest in you, it'll drag you into the spirit world. Of course, that hand just comes out of the toilet bowl, but there didn't seem to be any stories about the hands I saw that filled up the doors. If those were the same hands, then it seemed they didn't like me. But if so, I'm happier that they didn't like me than if they did. Well, I haven't seen them since then anyway, and in the end, they're just stories. Now I'm not bothered by them at all, and I can use those toilets. Although the spiritual energy is still strong there. Huh? Where are those toilets? And why do you want to know that? Do you intend to go into the boys' toilets? You don't have to go that far for your research, you know. Or do you really want to know? Tell me. I guess it can't be helped. If you can't go to the toilets after this, don't blame it on me. Honestly, it's all of them. The toilets I went to that time were in the south wing of the new school building though. But I think the hands appear in all of them. Because I feel the same spiritual energy coming from all of them. I just happened to see them there, but I don't think it would be odd to see them in any of the other toilets. But don't worry. You haven't seen them once yet, have you? If so, then you're okay. That's right, they won't hurt you. Although, it does happen sometimes, but only sometimes. So it's okay. Probably. That's the end of my story. Who's next?